So here we are with Matt Van Der Bosch. Matt, tell us a little bit about you growing up. Start from the beginning. Brothers, sisters, mom, dad. Did you always grow up in Hastings? Did you move here eventually? Let's start at the beginning of your life.
Yeah, sure. No, not from Hastings originally. I was born in Wisconsin, lived in South St. Paul when I was really young. We moved over to Woodbury. I think I was about 4. um, it was just my brother and myself growing up. My brother Joe is 4 years younger than I am. Yeah, we grew up in Woodbury, and predominantly played all my youth sports through the Woodbury Association there. Hockey, baseball, football. Um, Sophomore year, I started to kind of understand that I wanted to be an athlete in college, and at the time, I thought it would be in my best interest to looking to open enroll and move down to Hastings. At the time, every sport, it seemed like Hastings was just going to state, or just every program, and especially the sports that I was interested in. They're the team to beat around the South Metro. So kind of met some of the guys over the years, playing hockey and whatnot. So had some contacts there. Decided to make the jump and transferred in my junior year, and I would say it was the best decision at that time for me, for sure. Not only I think we got a lot better exposure. I think back in those days you didn't really have the YouTubes, and you didn't have all this online recruiting stuff that you had. So it really was an exposure that we were getting by going to state and participating in at that level. So yeah, that was a big plus for me as an athlete. And some of obviously the talent that we had really pushed you as well. I think I became a lot better athlete overall, just based on kind of the guys you had to practice with and compete with every day too. So that's another huge bonus of why I wanted to come down.
Cool. This is mainly a sports podcast. We're geared towards sports. So looking back to growing up, what do you think one of your earliest sports memories were? This could be playing baseball or playing catch in the backyard with your dad or something like that. And it could be something bigger than that as well. So what do you think one of your earliest sports memories was?
I remember growing up, that's all we did. Summertime, we would play backyard wiffle ball, or you find we had a couple places over where I lived. We called it the clearing. Just a big, clearing in between, the neighborhood, with grass. We'd play football and baseball, or whatever the season was. That's what I remember the most about growing up. There's always a game going on. You'd get home from school on, in the winter. The rule was, get your homework done and whatnot, and you'd head up and go skating at the park. Yeah, that was probably like the first thing that would jump out to me about youth and sports for myself.
Nice. What do you think one of your first jobs was? This could be cutting grass for your parents, or it could be something bigger than that. And it could be a paid or just a free thing you were doing. So what do you think one of your first jobs was?
It's well, I would quote unquote work for my dad, but I never really got paid. But I would probably my first like real job that I got a paycheck for was I think it was 13 or 14. There was a hockey camp up in Woodbury that the old South St. Paul coach would run. His name was Bill Moore. But yeah, he would run a hockey camp every summer. So for a few summers there, 2 or 3 there, I would work at the hockey camp, which it wasn't really work again either for for young kids, just demonstrating on ice all day and running some dry land stuff for the kids and whatnot. So I guess you could say that would be the first real job.
Awesome. Last thing, getting some background info on you, Matt. Pick three of these and just tell us your favorite one. So It could be your favorite movie, your food, favorite artist, author, or the time of the year.
3 of them. Okay.
Or you do all of them. It's up to you.
Favorite time of the year is that I think the Minnesota fall, you get like a 2 or 3 week window where it's like 60 degrees or 50s, sunshine. So it's like hooded sweatshirt and shorts and flip flops. That's my favorite, but it's like it's just a sliver. So that little sliver in time there, that'd be my favorite part of the year. Food as I mean, I think I don't know. I just a sucker for pizza. Just any time of the day. Doesn't matter when you wake up in the middle of the night. Just hunker down some za. No, I mean, you can't go wrong. I don't know. That's one thing I don't think I can ever turn down. Let's see. What else were we looking at? Movies,
artist, author.
Let's see. I'm always been a kind of a movie quote guy. But probably all-time favorite. There's a few. I give it like a top 3. Let's do a Caddyshack. Let's do let's see, Animal House, Big Lebowski.
I had you pick Major League, but that's just me. That was maybe I'm assuming a little bit too much, but
yeah, I didn't want to go too, I guess, cliche with the baseball stuff. But I think those are good 3 that would be right there in the top 3 right in my wheelhouse there.
Awesome. Yeah, I agree with you. That time of the year, that right between the summer and the fall is one of the best times, and then kind of the opposite of that one too. I think we're kind of going through it right now. When the weather kind of breaks a little bit, and you kind of take off the jacket a little bit, and you have some breathing time, or right when it's about 50 or 60 degrees in the springtime. That's one of the best too. So I agree
for
with
sure.
You. So then, starting off, once again, like I said, this is mainly kind of a sports podcast. So thinking back, growing up, we went through kind of your earliest sports memories. What sports did you play growing up? I'm sure you were involved in everything you could imagine, but talk about what sports you played growing up all the way till about, let's stop in about 6th grade. So right before middle school.
Sure. I think I first started with like, T-ball and whatnot. I didn't get into hockey until I was about 7 years old, which I think might have been not at that time, not late, but I think in today's world it's a little bit late to get started with hockey. Started with those 2 first. I tried soccer for a year. Didn't really like it. I don't know. Maybe it's just too much running. But did that for a year, and then the next year, I think it was like I don't know, 4th or 5th grade. Football started, so that you can get into flag football. So mainly growing up, it was up until middle school, it was all just baseball, hockey, and football.
Wonderful. Yeah. So then let's start in about 7th grade. That's when it seems like most people get a little more serious with sports too. So let's go 7th to about 10th grade when you transferred over to Hastings. Let's talk about sports that you played, and then you could talk about 2 levels that you played on. If you got brought up early for any sports in middle school, varsity level experience, or anything like that as well.
Sure. Continued the same sports all through middle school. 8th grade. So interesting with hockey in Woodbury at the time. So we had not a great team. We had a decent amount of numbers, guys going out and whatnot, but the hockey wasn't the best. My age group. So when I was a first year Bantam, we had a new Bantam coach that didn't really have. I would say like a lot of the kids didn't really connect with him, right? So it was, and at that time the Woodbury varsity hockey team wasn't the greatest either. So a lot of those 9th graders, so they're the 2nd year Bantams, those 9th graders elected pretty much all to try out for the high school team. So what that was going to leave basically the Bantam teams in Woodbury to only they weren't going to have an A team. They were just going to have a B and a C team, which I didn't I didn't really want to, try to play in the Bs. Not that there's anything wrong with that. It's just from competitiveness. I wanted to play at a little bit higher level. So I elected to try out for the high school team as well, and I was on the JV team in 8th grade. So, which hindsight, I wish we would have had a Bantam A team. We would have played more games. I think it'd been a little bit more from a developmental, but just kind of it is what it is, I guess, what that situation. So I decided to play up.
What about football and baseball as well? Did you play those sports in middle school? Obviously, you played them in middle school, but
Yeah.
talk about the years you played them and any accomplishments with those as well before you got to
Uh,
Hastings.
yeah, school football. I played, your, let's see, your 7th and 8th grade year, the JV level. You play like, I don't know, or not JV, at the middle school level. I forget how many games you played, maybe like 8. Wasn't much to write home about. I didn't have the best experience with my 8th grade coach. He was, I don't know. I always thought football at that time was more just something just to kind of pass the season. I remember having to get ready for hockey clinics, and I think we had clinics or tryouts, or I believe it was tryouts for like the Bantam team. We were still going through that stuff. I ended up getting hurt, and I couldn't play like our last, football game. We didn't have playoffs or anything. It was just kind of the last game of the year, and he just aired me out. Like, I'm just a little 8th grader, and he's whatever, and he's airing me out about being selfish and this and that. I'm like, dude, I just went to tryouts for my, winter high, so I didn't have the best experience with that. I ended up not playing all the way until my senior year, actually, when, I came to Hastings, that my junior year, and then the senior year, my, all my friends are just talked me into playing in with all them. And that was a lot of fun too. But so that was kind of my football story there through, not much to say there. Baseball, we played a lot of traveling baseball at that time, 7th, 8th grade through Woodbury. Probably played like 50, 60 games between the spring and summer. I played, I started in 9th grade with the varsity team, and played 4 years between Hastings and Woodbury there. So.
Sweet. So did you go to Hastings your sophomore year, or did you transfer after your 10th grade year?
Transfer after the 10th grade year. So I played in Woodbury varsity hockey and baseball, 9th and 10th grade, and then transferred over to Hastings.
Nice.
And then didn't play football again until senior year.
So talk about your time at Hastings then. Obviously, then, like you just said, you're part of football, hockey, and baseball. Talk about the years you played, coaches you played for, any individual accomplishments or team accomplishments as well during your time in Hastings.
Yeah, I think there's kind of plenty to go through there. I was just joining an already like really good group of guys, and it wasn't necessarily just 1 year. It was a multiple stacked together like 5-6 years. It seemed like there was really great athletes. And what I remember most, I think, coming down, it was that all those guys were really good friends with each other. In Woodbury, when I grew up, you played on your team, but there's kind of guys that just kind of migrated towards other guys. It was kind of cliquey, I guess you could say. Seniors hung out with the sophomores on your team. You did stuff as a team. Like if there was a get together or something, like everyone was invited. We were everyone, and a lot of people played a lot of multiple sports too at that time. So you had a lot of 2 to 3 sport guys that were having a lot of success. I think from a team aspect, I would like come over. First sport I play is hockey. Right, my junior year, we take second in state. We get our hearts ripped out at the state tournament, and we lose to Roseau. Right after we just had marathon games against Blaine, Elk River the nights before, come back and we just lay an egg with Roseau. Right, so you go right there to the middle of March, and then, baseball season started. So you get into baseball, and a lot of those guys from the hockey team carried over. We all play baseball together. So what did we do there? We go out and we win the conference. We go through our section. We beat, Cretin and their unbelievable team and Joe Mauer, and go on to state, and we win state through there. And then we end state there, and go right into, into the next season in fall. And I just so happened to join the football team at the time. That team is really successful too. Missed out on a state tournament or a state championship the year before. We go into football, and we walk through a conference. We get back into state again, and we go to another state championship. And this time, Joe Mauer and Cretin, they beat us in the state finals. And it just kind of carried over. And then all of a sudden, we're the very last game of football. We had to roll in. The very next night, I think we had our first game against Eden Prairie in hockey, and we just kept rolling through that. So, and then that senior year, hockey season all the way through state, third place in state. And then through baseball, I don't remember how we ended in baseball. I don't think we made it into state my senior year. I think we lost out in the playoffs. But overall, like those 2 years, it was just like nonstop, season to season to season, like state tournament, state tournament, state tournament. It was a lot of fun to be a part of. I was a multiple sport all-state guy, hockey and baseball. You had, like Danny Welch was a 3-sport all-state guy. Gerlach was a 3-sport all-state guy. I think Tafe was 2. You got Tharp and not even just hockey and baseball. Then you had, obviously Josh McClay. I mean, he played football with us. He obviously wrestled, had a lot of success there. But we had all these guys kind of within the same age group, which was a lot of fun. Like just a ton of fun.
God, that's got to be a whirlwind, it just going from one to the next, and the success just keeps on rolling from one season to the other one. God, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it was. I mean, that was. I mean, I don't think I'll forget any of that stuff, especially those state tournament experiences, and at that time in your life, and that's kind of like everything you're motivated for as an athlete. It's like, especially like the state tournament at the XL, or I think with us at the time was the Target Center, because the XL wasn't built yet. But growing up as a hockey player, that was like, if you could be on TV and be at the X or be at the Civic Center or be at Target Center or whatever in front of everybody, that was kind of the mecca right there. So that was amazing to go through those couple of years.
Nice. Next 2 questions, you might have just kind of hit on them, but they're a little similar, but if you could split them up, that'd be great. So what do you think your most rewarding experience was as a high school athlete? And then follow it up with your favorite moment as a high school athlete.
Most rewarding, I just being on those successful teams again. I mean, it's hard to say like any one sport or any season was a little bit more rewarding than the other. Every year I think every team that we had was unique. So that whole kind of experience, I guess, for the 2 years for me was the most rewarding. I think the most memorable moment, it's tough because I think the easy answer is the state tournament in baseball. But I mean, from a memory and just a crush was that the Roseau loss that we had in '99 was because we were just on cloud 9, right? And we just had 2 victories. We had just a back and forth, marathon game with Blaine, come out on top. Some last second stuff with Danny Welch scores the last second goal and we go crazy. And then we follow that up. We have a 3 overtime game with Elk River, who had like Paul Martin at the time. They had a bunch of other, great hockey players that went on to do a lot of cool things. And We kind of come off of that high into that Roseau game, and I remember that just like kind of crush, defeat. Like you worked so hard, and up until that moment, everything was just going on a crescendo from a hockey experience for me. And then you get to at that point was, the very top, and then it just boom hits you. And that might be the most memorable experience from my high school career. And not that, memories don't always have to be the positive ones too, but I just, that one sticks out, just from all those emotions. Right. So.
Mm-hmm. Right on. So you named a lot of the teammates you played with. So we could talk about two things. Your favorite coach, or the best coach, I would say too, that you played for. You played for some iconic coaches here in Hastings, and maybe talk about some lessons that they taught you that still kind of resonate with you today. And then talk about a favorite teammate. You named about 15 a little bit earlier, and then a lesson that they taught you, and something that why you think they're maybe the best teammate you played with, and some of the things that they did for you, or the way you saw them treat other people, or maybe their work ethic, things like that. So who do you think was one of your best coaches you played for and one of your best teammates?
All right. Well, I again, like I still see all these coaches. So if they hear this, everyone was great in their own regard. I would probably say Russ Welch was the best coach I had, just from a learning about the game. So he taught me little things about the game of hockey that maybe I didn't necessarily need, or from the other sports. I only had 1 year in football with Coach Majeski, so that might be a little bit unfair. But I think from just like a teaching the game, Russ would stick out to me as the coach I learned the most from. And then a teammate, the first one that jumps out is Josh McClay. I think he was always the team first guy, and he was always the one that he would run through hell for his team and for his teammate, like no question. So from best teammate, I think that might be a hands down with him. He's just he just was built from a different mold in that regard, right? So he's very unselfish. He was always you could always rely on him to do his job and then some, from a teammate perspective. So
Awesome. Talking about you two throughout maybe elementary to middle school to high school, did you ever have any big jumps in your play in any of your sports? So either football, you're kind of playing that a little later in high school, but hockey and baseball, do you ever have a year where you just made a huge jump, or do you think your improvement was always just pretty gradual? And either or, if you think it was gradual, or did you have a big jump? What do you think were some of the things that went into you kind of maintaining, or you having that big jump in your improvement process?
I don't necessarily think. I don't know if there was always a big jump. I always felt I was pretty consistent and how I performed at my level, my age, and whatnot, going up throughout. I think there's things that definitely elevated that. I think coming to Hastings and playing hockey, especially with the talent and stuff that we had around, I think I had a jump there that junior year, because I was finally able to play with guys that could skate with me and guys that could, do those other things. And that just elevated my game with that. I think from the biggest jump, I think once we get into college, there's some things there that we can point to, but throughout like youth and then high school, probably the biggest thing would be there was coming to and playing hockey with some of those guys in my junior year.
Perfect. Well, that's a perfect segue, because let's get into college then. So walk us through the recruiting process. What schools were you interested in? What kind of drew you to Oral Roberts and stuff? And what did you see there? Talk about playing sports there for how many years you did that, any accomplishments you had, your major. Just let's unpack the whole thing here.
Sure. So through high school, and I kind of figured I was really split between hockey and baseball. I really loved them both, and I wasn't sure. I thought baseball would overall be a better fit long term. So I started that recruiting process, and again, back then there wasn't a whole lot of YouTube or like these different club teams that they're doing nowadays, and the different showcases and whatnot. It was basically you kind of had your school season and Legion ball, and that was about it. We were fortunate enough to have a volunteer coach on the varsity team at the time. His name's Dan Peltier, still lives in Hastings. I believe they still live in Hastings. But Dan played in the major leagues. He played for a handful of teams. I want to say, I think the Rangers and the Giants are a couple of them. He played for a coach by the name of Pat Murphy at Notre Dame. Pat Murphy then, at the time, was at Arizona State. So I flew down on a recruiting trip to Arizona State, talked with them, and then they wanted me to go to a junior college down there to get at bats in, to get playing time, and so they can kind of see, keep eyes on me and see what's going on. So yeah, I thought that was a good idea. I actually had a friend that we graduated with going down to one of the junior colleges down there. So I ended up going to Yavapai College in Arizona. 2 years there, and junior college baseball is a lot like how junior hockey is here, if you're familiar. So more or less kind of a development type of league to get into, like a bigger 4-year or whatnot. So so I did that, played 2 years there. Was JC, NJC, AA All-American there. My sophomore year is going through the recruitment process, and there's several schools. I think the top 3 or 4, it was Arizona State, Arizona, top 3, Arizona State, Arizona, and then Oral Roberts. At the time, I was kind of always locked in at ASU. That's kind of why I went down there. I wanted to go to ASU, but during my recruiting trip, my second recruiting trip with them, I kind of just felt like another guy. They bring in a bunch of guys and talented guys from all over the country, and it's it's a very talented program, and they had the luxury to do that, and I didn't really feel the love from them, that I did from Oral Roberts. The recruitment process with there, I talked with their coach almost every night. It seemed like almost every night. I don't remember. I don't want to get anyone in trouble with NCAA violation or whatnot, but I don't. It seemed like we would just talk, for an hour about baseball, and it felt right at home. They offered me a pretty good scholarship there, and I just thought it was a no-brainer. They had a good program at the time, and that was fortunate because we ended up, I played 2 years there. My senior year, I think we finished. We were ranked both years. I think we finished my junior year ranked in maybe the top 25, maybe right around 25, something like that. My senior year, we finished 11th in the country, I believe. And we ended up taking 2 out of 3 from Arizona State when we came back and played them in Tempe. My senior year, came back and played those guys, and we were able to take it to them and take 2 out of 3 there. So that was a great experience there. That was a Division I All-American with them, and had a good time. It was a little bit of a culture shock at first, going down to a kind of a private, charismatic Christian university. But after you kind of get into everything there, it was a great experience there. and I don't think I would change that at all.
I don't know a lot about Oral Roberts. Where's it at?
It's in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Okay.
Yep.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. And so what you major in? Did you stick with that and maybe fast forward that? So that was probably in what, around 2005 to 6 that you graduated from there. So we got about 14 to 15 years here to cover since then. So let's speed through that last 14, 15 if you want and take us from when you left Oral Roberts to today.
Sure. Well, I majored in recreation administration, which is, I don't know, more or less like the go-to sport major down there if you're an athlete. Ended up graduating from Metro State University in the off seasons here with just a liberal arts degree. So after Oral Roberts, that was 2004, was my senior year. I got drafted by the Boston Red Sox in the 9th round. Played with them 04, 05, 06, then into 07. I guess some accomplishments there. I was a minor league player of the year my first year with them in the organization. Well, at my level, so every level they have their own players of the year. So that was a nice little reward there. But won a AA championship, a league championship in 06 in Portland, Maine. Won the AA league title there. Ended up making it to AAA. A lot of back and politics stuff there. Got a handful of bats there. Had some big league spring training time with them, but things just didn't work out. The way we would like them to. Sometimes that's just how it goes. But after my experience with professional baseball, I dialed back a little bit. Came back home. Started playing amateur baseball, with some friends around here with the Meisville Mudhens. I'm still doing that today. That's probably like 2008 till now. So still keeps me young. Still lets me compete a little bit. Every year I get a little bit fatter, a little bit slower. So it's still hanging on by a little bit. My knees are still there, so that's good. Coached for about 9 years with the University of St. Thomas. Did a lot of hitting and outfield work with the guys there over the time. Had some great kids, great families, great parents. But yeah, overall, that's kind of in a nutshell the post collegiate experience for me.
And what about your family? Where you at now? Things like that.
So now I work at commercial sales with Best Buy. I am married to Christy Van Der Bosch. Christy Myers she's from Hastings too. That was her maiden name. And then we have 2 kids, George and Molly. George is 5. Molly is 2. And George is just starting his first year of hockey this year. So that's been keeping us very busy, very, very busy.
Awesome. I know you are still kind of connected to the Hastings community with sports. I know you reffed Little Raiders football for a while. Any other connections with Hastings athletics still to this day?
Other than just, coming out and watching, friends and their kids and stuff like that. Nothing necessarily through it, like any association, no. But yeah, just coming back and enjoying that as much as we can, or trying to catch games when these guys are playing baseball in the summer, over in Rosemont where we live now, or wherever we can come and see the little guys.
Awesome. So you said George started hockey or skating. Any other sports is he into, or?
Yeah. So he loves baseball. I think it's just, he sees how much I enjoy it. So since he could walk, he was swinging a bat. So he's big into that. Football and soccer. He got into soccer through school. through daycare and whatnot. So we're going to try that, I think, too. I think that's pretty good for them, especially at this age. Just run around. I mean, that's not, they're 5. It's pretty much all you can do, right? Run around and kick a ball. Sounds like that'd be, good for him to burn some energy. So we'll try that this fall. Yeah, hopefully, hopefully he likes it. Hopefully whatever he does, he likes. And I've always said I'm not going to try to push him to do anything. I mean, I think I have my favorites, but I think if he decides he doesn't really care for whatever sport, let's figure out something that works for you. But I just want him to be active. I just want him to have fun, be active, whatever you're doing.
Nice. All right, Matt, I got a couple last questions for you here, and maybe the most important ones that we got for this podcast. So, if you could give parents or coaches 2 pieces of advice from your experiences, your perspectives, what would they be and why?
Yeah, I think it's important for, we kind of just touched base on it, but kids to play multiple sports, to be active, to be involved, to really find things that work for them. You learn a lot from all different aspects of different sports or different activities that you're doing. I think until maybe 14, 15 years old, maybe it depends on sport, but I feel like that might be a good age if you know that you're going to be a wrestler, if you know that you're going to, that's what you want to devote and focus on, or hockey or baseball or football or soccer or swimming or tennis, whatever that is. I think you have to try everything out, and up until that point. Maybe that's a little too old, maybe that's a little too young to really maybe focus in on. I think I see that too many young athletes focusing in on something at the age of 8, 9, and devoting all their, you have to have time to be a kid too, right? And you have to have time to have breaks, and you can't just go all year and go nonstop. And you have to have time to do other things, and just go to the cabin and jump in the lake and hang out with your friends, and play backyard, pick up basketball, go play ding dong ditch, or, well, maybe not, I don't know. But just have be a kid. That's what I would say. Don't take anything too seriously until you get to that age group where you think now it's might be important to invest some time and resources into a little bit more development into that sport, but just don't get so specialized too early. That's what I would say. I have seen it. A lot of kids get burnt out. Not necessarily a fault of anybody. It's just do too much of something over a period of time, you start to lose your joy, your the fun of it. So
That's awesome. Well, Matt, that's all I got for you today. The mic is going to be yours here for the last couple minutes. So, anything that you want to talk about, anything I didn't ask you, anything that you want to share, the floor is yours.
No, I think little bit that we get to visit here beforehand. Good luck to all the current athletes. Finishing up your winter seasons or getting into your spring seasons through Hastings, and just enjoy it, have fun. Hopefully we can have some more success and down the road, and a lot more student athletes to come on the podcast.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim.